Hey guys, back with another episode of John the Electron Man. It is currently, I don't know if you can see that, but it's about 40 degrees outside and it's only 6:15. Cold. But, check this out. My papa got a 1948 8N Ford tractor. I'm not a big fan, I'll admit, I'm not a big fan of Ford. But I've grown accustomed to this thing. I like it quite a bit. It's 4-speed. I'm guessing that's pretty usual for a tractor. Well, I would say, for my guess, it's probably does a top speed of 40 mile an hour. And I'm personally, there's been something living over here. I'm thinking it's a coon. But anyhow, it's 1948 4N tractor. And look at the sludge we pulled out of the crank, or not the crankcase, but the whole drivetrain assembly. I don't know the name for it. Not very big on tractors, but I do like tractors. I'm one of those. I'm new to the whole thing, but I know you're just going to have to take my word on this because I wasn't able to do a video of it. But I had to time the thing. I had to do a carb clean on it. Didn't have a carb rebuild kit, or I would have. It's very simple. It's like a go-kart. It's practically like a go-kart, or it's simpler than a go-kart carb. I kid you not. It's actually simpler than a carb on a go-kart. You have a float valve. Go ahead, this thing's still smoking. But it's got a very simple basic behind it. It's just a float valve, a jet, air intake, and air outlet, and the main adjustment valve for that right there. I think that adjusts the flow into it, and that actually adjusts what goes into the jet that goes out into the mainstream jet, not the pilot jet, but the mainstream jet that actually goes to the engine. The one where all the gas comes out of and goes to the cylinders. It's 4-cylinder, which I'm guessing this is pretty common for tractors. I don't know. But I actually had this thing running. I had it driving, and it's cold out now. Plus, this thing's been off for a few hours. It'd take quite a bit to get it up and going again. Plus, it's out of gas. So, and I know it looks bent up, but that's the thing about these tractors. It has a pivot point at the front, right underneath, right in between the engine and the radiator. There's a pivot point. And right now, the rear end's setting like this, and the front end's setting like that. So it's kind of catty-cornered and cockeyed. Very goofy looking. And the hood ornament, believe it or not, because the hood doesn't open. At least not of my knowledge, it doesn't. But the hood ornament, that's actually where you put the water into the radiator. I thought that was pretty nifty. And of course it's water cooled, because I just mentioned it. But the headlight, this one's blown. And I'm guessing because when somebody converted it over to it used to be a 6-volt chassis positive system. So the chassis of it was hot, while all the wiring was negative. This was minus and this was positive. But now somebody's converted it to a 12-volt system. And there's a little hood latch right there. This is where your gas tank is. Holds, I'd say, probably about 6-7 gallons, something like that. Here's your air filter. Down here's the battery. It's been converted to a 12-volt chassis negative system, whatever. Here's your pressure, or this is your pressure line right here, oil pressure line. This is a regulator that goes to the alternator. It's been converted at one time. Whenever they converted it to a 12-volt system, they put a 12-volt alternator. I'm guessing it's like a I don't know. I'm guessing like a Chevy or maybe I don't know. It looks more like a Chrysler alternator on it. I don't know. But anyhow, it used to have a generator, a 6-volt generator on it. Now it's a 12-volt alternator. And it's hooked up through a regulator. All this is a mess jumbled of wires. and it runs right over to this regulator. And this regulator is on a switch. Right here's the switch. And then when somebody converted it, because originally it was a, thought I heard a coon again, but originally when it was a positive chassis system, right here you would have a ground, or a positive, you'd have a wire hooked up from here going to your starter. And the reason it's on here, where the shifter is because you don't want to have it in gear and try to start it. Just watch. Well, now I don't want to go in gear. There. Now it's in reverse. It locks the button so that way you can't start it while it's in gear. When it's in neutral is when you can start it, but when somebody converted it, they put the starter switch right here. Starter's going out on it. And somebody also did a stupid here. When they replaced the wires, this is hot. So if this touches the chassis, poof. Right here is the resistor that runs to the ignition coil. This runs to the ignition coil. There's a wire going from here. It's hooked up to the positive. I'm not sure where. I don't remember. I just don't. It hooks up to the back of the amp meter. So this is the main power feed in that comes from the battery. Hooked from there to the resistor, and I don't know why they did it this way. It goes from the amp meter to the resistor, then from the resistor to the switch, and from the switch over to the ignition coil, which is over on the top of the engine. Right there behind the water line. It's that little cam back there. Well, anyhow, there's one wire, and they have the wire going from the resistor to the ignition coil. It's basically just a transformer that goes from steps 12 volts up to a couple thousand volts to make that spark that jumps the gap and ignites the fuel mixture inside the cylinders. But what they've done here is, this is not what the people who modified it did. This is what people who built it did. What they did was, and this was done on cars too, and I need to replace that soon, but the ground, well in this case it used to be the positive, but the ground going to the ignition coil goes down to the distributor, and it's on an insulator which runs into the contact points. And I'm not going to pull this apart because it is a BITCH to time it, and I've already had to time it once. And it runs to a set of contacts that switch whenever it hits a cam in here. It turns that switch on and off, and when it turns it on and off, it basically makes a pulse DC going to this transformer, otherwise known as an ignition coil, which makes a spark, goes to the center of this distributor, goes to a little, it's a piece of metal, and when you have it timed right, this is cylinder number 1, and all the way in the back, this one I'm touching with my finger, is cylinder number 2, and then this is cylinder 4 and cylinder 3, so it fires off in this order: 1, 2, 4, 3. It's a weird firing order if you ask me, but I don't think there's a single engine that fires in this order: 1, 2, 3, 4. There might be, but I don't know of it. Anyhow, well, it has a weird type of filter, and I think it's missing the filter element that goes to the carb. But right here's the air intake. The reason I keep pausing is because there's cars driving by. It's interrupting my video. Plus, my sister's supposed to be coming home tonight. She went and spent the night with someone. But inside this, there's oil. And right here it says, I can't read that, oil level. And it has a marker there. So you fill it up to there with oil. And my guess is whatever excess dirt comes from up here goes down to here. And the reason it does that is it catches all the grass and stuff down in here where the oil is. So it makes it thick and heavy to the point that the grass can't just suck up, go over to this big metal pipe, which almost looks like exhaust line, but it's not. It's the whole breather, it's the whole filter system for the carb. The carb is super simple to work on. It's basically just a box with a few valves in it. That's all it really is. Can't get that line to go back on there. There. So air goes in here, sucks down through a line that goes down to about here, and blows all the grass and dirt and stuff into the oil, then goes through a filter element, comes up through here, through this line, at least from what I know. I don't know much about the filter, I just know a little bit about the carb. And then it sucks it down through here, into the carb, mixes gas in here, blows it up through the intake manifold, into the cylinders of the engine, and it runs through a set of valves. And you can see where somebody has done a little bit of a dirty modification. They use, I think that's 2/8 pipe connectors, pipe fittings, and washers to bolt the whole entire intake and exhaust manifold onto the engine. Little dirty fix, but if it works, it works. So it takes it in through these set of pipes here. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then it exhausts it through here. 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is back here. And then exhaust it out through the exhaust pipe and out the back. Instead of your traditional, like the iconic tractor you think of, has the exhaust pipe coming out the top with a little butterfly valve. So it closes up. So when the tractors, the reason they put that valve up there on some of the tractors that did have that kind of exhaust was if you have it parked outside, you don't want dirt just falling down in there or rain. So it closes like that. But when the engine's running, it pushes that valve up from the pressure coming out of the cylinders. So it's basically just it shuts itself off so no dirt and rain can get in. Has PTO in the back, as most tractors do. Actually, I'd say all of them do, if I had to take a guess. It's cold out here, I can barely breathe. And here's the backup light, so you can see what you're doing at night. Somebody bolted a toolbox onto here. As they say, duct tape fixes everything. Yeah, as you can tell from the steering wheel. Actually, their idea was pretty good, because the steering wheel itself, if you're counting just the metal, is about as thick as that, but it's a little bit thinner than my finger. So it's not the most comfortable thing to grab, but they wrapped, I don't know, it feels like they put foam behind it and then duct taped over it. It makes a pretty comfortable grip, except for when it's cold, it holds the cold and your hands freeze. Like right now, it's like 40, probably going down to 30 right now. And kind of like your standard little garden tractor, little tiny ones compared to this, about half its size, it has the throttle in the same exact place. Squeaky, love that squeak. It's annoying. I'm sorry, I'm rambling on, making a long video, but my channel, if you don't want to watch how long my video is, just cut it off. But please stay, because it's nice to have viewers to actually care about what I talk about. Whether you care or not, I'm still gonna make videos. It's kind of like my own little log, so I can look back on time and see what I've learned, little things I pointed out to myself. But here, the original amp meter went bad. No, they converted it to a 12-volt system, so my guess is that the original gauge, since it's 12-volt, wouldn't work with a 6-volt or a 12-volt system, because the original was 6-volt. And what the person who modified this, what they've done is, it's a two-way position toggle switch. Center is off, bottom's on, up's on. But in this case, both of these are off because nothing's connected below that. So flip it all the way up, power's on, and that resistor gets hot. Let's see. well, oh well. No, wait. That's the resistor. But you shouldn't do that because it burns those resistors up, and then you have to replace it, as I had to get it running. It's an old thing. Old. Already going on a 15-minute video. Let me see if it'll start. Just for the sake of the video. Let's see, where's the choke? I can't see nothing. It's cold, so it'd take a while to start up. I ain't just going to actually run it. I'm just going to start it up. Starter's going out on it, so it's not all that great. Right here where your crotch is, about where it's at, you have your shifter. And it goes in an X formation. All the way over and up is first. Down, over a notch. Second, up, over, third, up, and up. Well, it won't go into fourth. Yep, it will. That's fourth. And then down. If you start in the first position, you go over all 3 notches and push up. Now it's in reverse. And then here's the clutch. And then over here, it's got 2 brakes, left and right. This is the left rear brake. And there's only rear brakes on these things. So you push that down, it locks up one wheel. Then you go over here, you push this one down, which this one's way looser. You push it down, and then that right there is the right brake. And that's the speedometer, I'm guessing. Yeah, it's a speedometer. It's got the hour meter built onto it. Somebody did a little dirty thing here. Not perverted dirty, but just annoying dirty. Right here where the fuel pump, or oil pump is, I should say. That little stem sticking out the back that goes nowhere. Used to be a cable that runs over to the back of the speedometer, which is right there. It's an old tractor. It needs a lot of work. I'm guessing that's PTO speed right there. And then that below lifts up these rear arms. It ain't going to work right now by no means because we got every bit of fluid drained out of the rear end and soaking in kerosene to loosen it up. What my idea. So if that ain't the right thing to do, it wasn't my idea, it was my papa's. I ain't just saying that, it was his idea. But, right here, this is the fuel point. It's covered in that stuff, it's gross. But, right here, that's the PTO engage and disengage. Feels like it has a notch or two, like setting 1 and setting 2. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know that much about tractors. But when you go to drive it, it's pretty much just like a truck or a car that's straight shift. Got big old tires. Keep in mind, this tire is about 2.5 feet shorter than me. I'm about 5'7", 5'8". So it's a pretty good sized tire. That's the front tires. About 4.5 inches wide. And then the rear one's about 12 inches wide, if I had to take a guess. It's cool. I'm not sure if this video will upload, so. Anyhow. This is the 1948 8N Ford tractor. John the Electro Man. See y'all later.